My name is Justin Decloux, and I'm here today with
Will Sloan.
And you're listening to The Important Cinema Club. And today, we are discussing Martha Coolidge.
This is an interesting career. This is the kind of career that I increasingly like the further we get on in this podcast. You know, somebody who in the 1970s maybe had some kind of path-breaking experimental debut, and then later in their career, they make The Prince and Me.
I mean, arguably, Martha Coolidge has a maybe not as much acclaim, but Peter Bogdanovich style career.
Oh, sure.
Where he also had that, like, first few films, really good.
And I think St. Jack has things to recommend in it.
That's right, St. Jack.
But
a dying gasp.
But, you know, Martha Coolidge, I don't feel qualified to pass judgment on this career only because I've seen just a small fraction of it. And I'm intrigued by this career.
Mm-hmm. And, like, the movies that we picked, they're all from early on in her career. And I'm sure that she may say, like, what about my newer films? When I've learned so much, like you hear a lot of filmmakers say this of like, oh, if I could only make those earlier films now that I'm so much more well-informed and I know how to really make a movie. Unfortunately, near the end of her career, if you look at her filmography, it doesn't seem there's that experimental bent, even though she's making bigger budget films that are for wider audiences.
Right. So her career begins in 1976 with a pioneering, complex, ahead of its time documentary fiction hybrid called Not a Pretty Picture, recently canonized by the Criterion Collection. As it goes on, she makes several fondly remembered 80s teen comedies. Valley Girl, Real Genius, to a lesser extent, The Joy of Sex. Mm-hmm. In the 2000s, and if you look on Letterboxd, these are the ones that are some of her most popular movies because millennials and Zoomers grew up with them. The Prince and Me and Material Girls. And then in between there, a lot of movies that you look at them and say, oh, that was by the director of Real Genius.
Or a lot of, oh, that exists? Yeah. Like, I've never heard of that before.
So there's the late period Lemon and Mathau film Out to Sea. There's the Diane Ladd Oscar vehicle Rambling Rose. There's Introducing Dorothy Dandridge, the Halle Berry TV movie. Lost in Yonkers with Jack Lemmon. Lots of movies like that you may remember seeing on the Blockbuster shelves when you were a kid.
Oh, yeah. I think that she had a kind of monopoly on, like, going through the comedy section as you go for, like, the Monty Python movie. And you're like, wait, what is this? A movie about a cop going undercover, but it's probably not the one that you're thinking of?
I am more interested in her career now, though, having seen, and I had seen before this week, I don't know how this is possible, but I had seen, hang on, let me do a quick tally.
Out to Sea.
0 Martha Coolidge movies, which is actually insane.
Really?
It's actually
how?
insane. I know.
Those look like lady films. I'm not really interested in those.
You know what? Probably.
Yes.
I was 12 and I saw the title Valley Girl and I said, oh, that's for
Valley Girl.
It's
a Valley Girl.
It's crazy I never saw that. It's crazy I never saw
Not
Real
even
Genius.
as, like, you know, you've done Nicolas Cage studies. You'd think that Valley Girl would be a core text when it comes to that kind of stuff.
It definitely is. Well, here I am, you know, belatedly.
Finally arriving to the Martha Coolidge introductory class, if you will. Taught by someone who is also taking this introductory class.
But maybe we should talk about Not a Pretty Picture first.
Of course.
And I don't know, it would be weird to move on from this one to the simpler delights of Valley Girl. Mm-hmm. It's not her first movie. She did a number of short films before this.
Documentary films.
Yeah, that's right. But it's definitely like the landmark movie, the first major work. And it's the one that I think after you watch this one, it might...
Color Valley Girl, for example?
Yeah,
or even any of the sex comedies that she makes after this.
Absolutely. So Not a Pretty Picture is a documentary fiction hybrid about her own experience being raped as a teenager.
And the film starts with a title card saying that, you know, this is not only a autobiographical work, but also the actor who is portraying in the film Martha Coolidge, the character's name is even Martha, has also been sexually assaulted.
That's right. And she's played by Michelle Minetti, whose only other film credit is Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story, by the way.
The Todd Haynes film?
What a body of work. That's an incredible, 1-2.
Did Todd Haynes reach out to her because he knew of this film? That feels like a Todd Haynes thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, it from its opening scene, which shows Martha Coolidge herself singing a folk song, it foregrounds her, you know, the auteur of the film as the author of the film. She's constantly in the film, and there's no fourth wall. It shows her directing this feature-length, basically reenactment of the day leading up to, and then the fallout after the rape. And much of it takes place on this sort of makeshift set in a loft somewhere.
Now, notably, the location where the sexual assault takes place, we never see like the fiction that she's creating beyond the kind of like the documentary style that like all the most dramatic parts are captured in. So it's almost like creating the line in between both of them, that like you see it reenacted on screen, but the style is handheld as if you're making a documentary while it's happening.
Yeah, and the territory, the division between the documentary and the reenactment is very porous.
Yeah.
The documentary is constantly being interrupted so Coolidge and her actors can discuss what's happening, discuss how to play it, discuss their own experiences.
For people who aren't aware of this film, like it starts with the actors just talking about sexual assault, and they're sitting in like the main location where that assault takes place. They're just themselves having the conversation. This poor man on set just shooting his mouth off.
James Carrington is his name, and by the way, he went on to
work with Martha Coolidge.
Yeah. He has a small role in Real Genius. He's in some other films, so this isn't like a Michael Moore movie, for example, where it's like people are in the movie to sort of like be hoisted by their own petard.
No, I know. And she clearly, like, they have a relationship as like actor and director, but he's basically like the sounding board of like, oh yes, this is what men would think.
Right.
and he's trying to like,
he's trying to be progressive.
Yeah. But the stuff that he's saying gives them, and they're not mean about it. They're like very open. They're not like, you idiot, what are you saying? But they're like trying to work through.
Certain of the things he's saying from the wrong angle are certain of the questions that the documentary is asking. It's like he's basically saying like, oh well, rape as it's defined here. I'm misquoting him, by the way, but it's like rape as it's defined here. Well, I know a lot of people who would be guilty of rape. In this sense, like he's basically suggesting that rape is a spectrum.
The actor and Martha Coolidge are like, okay, let's work through this, if you will.
Well, because like also they wanna understand
his perspective.
Well, they want to have a conversation about this to identify how it happens and why it happens.
Now, something interesting about this film is that the like fictional moments do have the vibe of an after school special, especially when they are contrasted with the raw feel of them just sitting around and talking through these things.
Well, yeah, and I think that has to be very intentional.
Yeah, like the camera's very like locked down, and the performances are almost elevated in the way the actors act on screen.
Yeah, they're a little wooden, and I'm not sure like. If I was just watching the reenactment scenes divorced from the documentary,
how much impact would it have?
But like obviously because those scenes are put in conversation with each other, it's meant to. It's meant to sort of call attention to the constructed nature of this. And I think this is a movie that raises a lot of questions. The first one that I would have, and I swear I have no agenda in asking this, is why make this movie? Like what is the purpose of making this movie? Is it to find solidarity either with the actors or the audience or both? Is it to exercise, the pain of this moment? Is it to attempt to take that moment in the past and control it in some way?
I mean, could it also be to illustrate and show people that this does happen and to actually quantify it in a way on
screen? Like to show how it happens.
Yeah, exactly. That like this is something that when this movie was made, 1976, no one's talking about this stuff. Movies aren't even really dealing with it unless it's in a very sensational way. And this is just like the bare facts. That's what breaking that fourth wall allows, it to do, that it removes itself from fiction or like, oh, it happened to someone else, and to actually talk through the thing without having to give it a dramatic structure.
Well, one of the things that this male actor sort of raises is the idea that, in a lot of people's heads, rape is very clearly like, somebody jumps out of the bushes.
Yeah, like an evil act.
Yeah. And this movie is very much about showing the more insidious everyday ways that it can happen. Mind you, the character that this actor plays, the man, is a really bad guy.
Yes, that is made very clear.
Yeah, a terrible guy surrounded by these terrible little lackeys. And I mean, one of the things that this movie illustrates is that rape is an act of power more than it is about sex, because like in the rape scene as it happens, it's like well, it's an act of dominance, and it's an act of conquest, and really it seems like the reason that this guy is doing it is so that he can brag to his friends. It's like, collecting a Pokemon card or something.
Yeah, that it's something that he feels he needs to achieve, that he can then hoard in a way, that he's done something that no one else in his eyes has done as well. And that's, the movie goes beyond the act of sexual assault, leading into like what is the
stigma
that follows it as well, which is illustrated through kind of like the narrative construction, where we cut then to the like after school TV movie version to see how it plays out.
Right. You find how little support there is for somebody who has this happen to them. You find how, they're judged, the whole like, oh, she must have been asking for it mentality, even from her school and the authorities there. Well, especially from the authorities there, she gets very little help. The movie doesn't provide catharsis, really.
I mean, it can't.
It can't.
Yeah.
And what it is ultimately is a therapy session, and like therapy for her, for the audience, for everyone.
And Martha Coolidge, when she's talked about the movie, she said that like by the time that she was making this movie, she was fairly aware and she had dealt with most of the ramifications of this act. Like the movie, there's like a scene where they're reenacting the sexual assault and the camera like pans over to her watching, and she has like her hand over her mouth, and the viewer can read into this. But in an interview she said like, oh no, you're reading into what my look as it's happening is, that like I was not dealing with those uncomfortable emotions in the moment.
I think the movie also raises some interesting questions and doesn't answer them about just the production of a movie like this. I mean, the movie takes great pains, and she takes great pains to make it a safe and communicative atmosphere on set. But the rape scene, when it occurs, is like pretty harrowing, and it's still harrowing in this context as well.
But like I said, it never breaks into that fictional kind of language that has been set up before. So you're always linking the cast and crew and Martha Coolidge watching this sexual assault take place, which I think is very important to not distance it, to ask more questions of like, well, what is the environment that this is being done in? And so, of course, from this film, we jump right into Valley Girl.
Yeah, I mean...
but there's a huge jump.
Yeah.
So it's like 1976, and then Valley Girl comes out in 1983.
Right. I know that for a period in that time, she actually worked at American Zoetrope. Francis Ford Coppola discovered her.
But she says she did not know that Nicolas Cage was related to Francis.
I actually find this fascinating, like regarding the Nepo baby thing. Like, everyone knows, or many people know, that Nicolas Cage, like his name is Nicolas Coppola, and he consciously changed his name to Cage, hoping to be discovered on his own merits, which apparently he was.
Yeah, well, people liked him.
She just found his still or his headshot amongst a bunch of other headshots and said, I want a guy like that. A guy who's, kind of handsome, but kind of weird.
Yeah, can we talk about young Nicolas Cage and like
he's awesome.
Like the charisma or the attractiveness of young Nicolas Cage? Because I think it was undeniable. But you even look at him now and you're like, that's a weird looking guy.
I mean, he's not Tom Cruise.
No, he's not.
And Tom Cruise also has like the hyper real quality.
But we've talked about Tom Cruise, is that Tom Cruise, due to his upbringing, moving all the time, there is that kind of void that is him, and that like wanting to be liked, to be charming, that forces him to be everything, hence being nothing. And Nicolas Cage, there's never that. If anything, there is a push away from people in a way that is only attractive, because you're like, what is that guy's deal?
Yeah, so Nicolas Cage at this stage of his career, it had been a while since I'd seen one of the early Nicolas Cage movies, and I was reminded obviously of Peggy Sue Got Married, where he does that, that voice. Insane voice.
Yeah.
Or even like Vampire's Kiss, where he's doing all these like really crazy experimental things early in his career, and he's always on the knife edge in that early career of just being like completely falling flat on his face.
But I think that those movies may have been from the baggage that came out of Valley Girl, because Valley Girl comes out, it's a hit, he becomes a heartthrob, and you could feel Nicolas Cage be like, I don't want this.
He's sweet in this movie. He's kind of silly. He looks a little weird.
Yes, I mean, he's always
going to look a little weird.
Look a little weird. Did you notice that the Valley Girl poster doesn't even have Deborah Foreman on it? It's a different woman on the. It's a woman that appears later on in the club. as if they were like, Deborah Foreman, we don't want her painted in this poster. Can we have somebody like, in our opinion, more attractive, if you will? Isn't that wild?
Yeah, of course.
Now, Deborah Foreman is one of those actors, I see her face and I'm like, oh yeah, she had a long career. Nope, she did not, which is kind of surprising.
You know who has had a long career is Elizabeth Daily, aka
Of course, Tommy Pickles.
E.G. Daily,
Yes.
as well as from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
This is, of course, one of the many teen sex comedies that was greenlit in the wake of Porky's. It had a budget, well, according to the New York Times, the budget was $350,000.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen other sources that say $3 million. Coolidge herself was allegedly paid $5,000.
Oof.
But it didn't matter because she was making a real movie, a studio-looking kind of movie.
And I think what's important about this film is that she is coming to this as an outsider. She did not grow up in LA.
Well, I learned from the New York Times article about this movie that one of the key demands from the producers was 4 shots of nude breasts. She had to deliver that. And of course, when you see the movie,
They are the most like...
you may say, wait, there were breasts in this movie?
Yes. Don't you remember when E.G. Daily was like brutally dismissed by the boy who was just having sex with her to get back at his ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, incredibly depressing.
And there is still an immediacy to this film, and it feels fresh in a way that like Porky's is an old man's movie because it's Bob Clark. People forget that Porky's is a period film.
It's set in the 50s.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's nostalgic in that sense.
And it's also Porky's, a film, like most of these boner comedies, that were from the perspective of the men that want to get laid. Valley Girl is not. That it is from the perspective of the women. Nicolas Cage has a major part in it, but he's almost kind of like the B or C actor in the main, entirety of the narrative.
So, of course, watching this movie immediately after Not a Pretty Picture and having never seen it before, it's like we get to these early party scenes that take up like most of the first half of the movie. Mm-hmm. You see Nicolas Cage come into this party with his little friend, and it's an upper middle class party. He represents like, one of the young punks. And I'm kind of girding myself to expect he's going to be really bad.
Oh, you think he's going to be like a bad man?
Well, frankly, just having seen Not a Pretty Picture, I kind of expected...
you're judgmental like the people in the valley, if you will.
Yeah, perhaps I am. And I think,
I'm looking down from my apartment at Will's giant mega mansion.
My Rolls Royce.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming up here, yeah.
But there is still that element, like the person that's more of the Not a Pretty Picture curly character is the like jock, blonde-haired, popular guy, if you will.
That's right. And I think, having just seen Not a Pretty Picture, obviously that was going to like color this movie for me. And I think the actual continuity with that movie, though, is like the extraordinary amount of empathy that it has. Like, well, so many of the teen sex comedies of this time. Look, I love Screwballs. I love King Frat.
I mean, if there's love King Frat?
Who doesn't? There's a
Joysticks.
Beautiful film. But like those are movies with pretty two-dimensional characters.
Oh, yeah.
And they've all got like one John Belushi ripoff character, basically. King Frat has a very good one. But this one, like, the characters are well-rounded, and I think that's important to remember with this movie. Like, it can be easy to forget maybe the context that this movie came out in the midst of all those movies like Screwballs. Like, this is more like...
I think that everybody going to this movie expected a film like that. But if you think of Valley Girl, it's like, what's the big comedic set piece about? It doesn't have them. It's not really interested in that. If anything, it's more a like grounded, realistic portrayal. Even like the Valley kids themselves, there's a way to do it like super stylized and they feel from another world, and it never really goes there.
Well, even like Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
yes,
which is a great movie.
Love it.
Like that movie is also
caricatures.
Well, yeah, it's like Spicoli, it's got the nudity.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of halfway, it's a little more halfway between this and Porky's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But it also has like well-rounded characters and, real drama in it as well.
Judge Reinhold whacking it in the bathroom.
I mean, it's iconic.
Just that scene. I don't know what's going on around it, but I always focus in on Judge.
Yeah. But this movie, you're right. This has none of that.
No, I mean, I don't think that she's interested, Martha Coolidge, in those things, but she is really zoning in on what are these teenager characters like. I'm coming at it from a remove as an adult myself, but I can still empathize with them. And it's so refreshing as well, this one. Like, the main character's parents are so nice, and there's never a twist. It's Colleen Camp and Frederick Forrest, and they play basically like ex-hippy dippy, but it never goes into the point of like parody. They're just like nice parents that let their daughter make the choice that she wants. Like, they know what choice she needs to make.
And it's interesting because this movie has a script that's basically stock.
Yeah.
You know, it has all the beats of like, she's dating the rich jock who's an asshole, and meanwhile there's like the younger working class kid, and there's back and forth, and it all climaxes at like the big dance. But it doesn't feel stock, and I think it's because there are so many characters actually. Like, she has all of her friends, and they're all very textured.
Well, what did you think about the subplot about the one guy who wants to have sex with the other girl's mom?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, wait, where is this going? Whoa,
Yeah.
full frontal nudity hidden behind a shower window. Woof.
I think she made it work.
Yeah, that gets dropped as it goes along. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're not going back to that subplot. But I guess at the core of it, it's about Deborah Foreman and like Nicolas Cage's relationship, which is front loaded because they meet, they have like one like lovey-dovey night, and then they continue dating, and the dramatic conflict is she doesn't want her friends to think like she's not popular if she continues dating Nick Cage. Even though she admits, she's like, I like being with Nick Cage more than I like to be with this jock boyfriend who for the rest of his career will be defined as the bald guy with blonde hair.
Yeah. And yeah, I think the actors just have a lot of room to work. I think they create, as I said, very full-bodied, rounded and textured, three-dimensional characters.
And it's got a rockin' soundtrack,
and yet not the Frank Zappa song.
No, it doesn't.
He actually threatened a lawsuit around this movie. Did you know
Really?
that? Yeah.
I did not know that. Great Frank Zappa song. I believe, it was a takeoff on the way his daughter spoke at the time. Valley Girl. I only know it because my dad would play it all the time.
That's Moon Unit Zappa in the song.
That's doing the Valley Girl line. That's why, like, you associate that song with this movie, so you expect all that kind of like over-the-top slang, like it'd be Heathers or something like that, and it is not really present within the context of the film, unless I am so hip with the times of 1983 that it just felt like normal parlance to me.
That's one of the things about this movie, by the way. It was meant to cash in on a fad.
Yes,
basically.
100%.
The concept of the Valley Girl was in popular culture at the time.
And instead, she went like, oh, what if I made a grounded movie that treated these, stock characters like real people with complex emotions?
And now the Valley Girl has become immortal.
Is she?
Yeah, in Bravo's hit reality show, The Valley.
Oh, okay. So Will would know about this. Yeah. So how's Vanderpump Villa these days? Are you checking that out?
I haven't checked in yet. Maybe,
you haven't?
Maybe for my summer vacation.
I thought you would be day one right there with your significant other being like, it's time to visit our bestest friends.
I only care about my old friends. I don't care about this new crew who's at Vanderpump Villa.
Yeah, it's a real like Saved by the Bell, the new class. It's like, who cares?
Yeah,
give me thank
Screech.
you. All right, so I have seen the film that she made after Valley Girl, City Girl. At least I think I did, because I wrote a really positive review for it, but I watched it during the pandemic, and that has been blasted from my mind. But I remember it being like raw and immediate, in like a different perspective from the story she told in Valley Girl. Like, there seemed to be a path that she could go down, but because City Girl didn't fit within that kind of like teen sex comedy box, I guess there was no in for people, that it played more like a drama. So it's not forgotten, but it's kind of fallen by the wayside, if you will. And you can see why she would take a job on, like, the reason we ended up doing this episode is that Vinegar Syndrome recently put out The Joy of Sex. And I watched the movie, was not surprised that Martha Coolidge in the interview was like, I took the job on at the last minute. And
that was originally supposed to be National Lampoon's The Joy of Sex.
That's right. And they were very happy that John Belushi was going to appear on the poster in a diaper. But he died before it could happen. And so she ended up taking on the project, basically doing a completely different film where The Joy of Sex is the classic sex manual that we all know and love. They literally bought the rights to a manual, and they just kind of wrote a whole script around it.
They're probably trying to recapture that everything you always wanted to know about sex
but
magic.
Yes. And that film is even more typical boner comedy, where it's like a young woman thinks that she's dying, so she decides to have sex before she dies, and all the kind of like episodic adventures around that. And like, it's okay. You can feel how it's compromised. Again, Martha Coolidge was asked, like, you need to put breasts in it. And then when they test screen the film with more breasts, the audience is like, boo, we don't want that. So they ended up...
They don't want breasts.
Yeah, they cut it out. There's a few in it. And they kicked Martha Coolidge out of the editing room as well. The screenwriters say, like, their movie's not really there. But then you get jokes of, like, a woman's about to have sex and he's trying to put a diaphragm in and it like bounces out of her hand and sticks to the ceiling. And so she's in the bathroom trying to grab it before she has to go out and have sex.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's like good shit that like no other movie is giving out that like broad comedic, but from a woman's perspective, sex comedy stuff.
That's right. And
so it's now available on Blu-ray. And the Blu-ray is so funny because every person interviewed on the film is like, bad. Almost was like, why did you buy this? But I enjoyed it. And Martha Coolidge, like, you can feel like following these films. She's like, how do I stay relevant? How do I keep a career of making movies? Like, I'm a woman in this industry. Like, they're looking for any opportunity to be like, hit the road. Like, you know, you don't get to make movies anymore.
Yeah, it's not easy to be a director. And, you know, even the successful directors don't really choose their careers.
No.
I think that's what Brian De Palma said in that documentary about him when he was talking about Wise Guys.
He didn't want to finally make the ultimate Joe Piscopo film?
Yeah.
And so she comes to probably one of her most famous films, even though that if you look at her letterbox, the most viewed are those millennial classics.
Yeah, The Prince and Me. But Real Genius is definitely up there. And of course, it's had a bit of a revival in the last few weeks because of the passing of the man on the poster, Val Kilmer.
Now, Real Genius, not one of my movies from when I was a kid.
Well,
how about you?
As I said, I'd never seen it.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you've never seen a Martha Coolidge film.
Yeah.
This is a film that, like, everyone will tell you, like, it played endlessly on HBO. And, like, there's a certain type of movie when I look at, like, Letterboxd and I see, like, 5 stars from, like, tons of people of a particular age, and then kind of like maybe it's pretty good versus or 1-star reviews, which this movie is not. I can grasp in my mind what kind of film I'm about to watch.
Well, yeah, because first of all, I like this movie. This is a very likable movie.
Yes.
But I can imagine this movie being a very comfortable, you know, TNT classic.
Mm-hmm. Or because it's not very demanding of the viewer.
You know, you just have it
It's
on.
not dramatic, really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to, you know, oh, okay, here's that like second act twist. I got to prepare myself before we finally build ourselves out. It's just kind of like in the vibes of the poor nerd character who is completely overshadowed by Val Kilmer's charismatic portrayal.
That's right. I mean, the movie's a little bit lopsided because Val Kilmer isn't really the main character.
No.
He's not the one who has the arc, but he's the main character in the sense that, like, Abbott and Costello are the main characters of an Abbott and Costello movie, even though they're not the romantic leads.
Oh,
you know?
boy. So you're damning the lead of this as the kind of like Zeppo of a Marx Brothers movie?
Hey, I like the lead of this movie. He's fine.
He's fine.
But, you know, Val Kilmer does have a very special magic in this film. I'm not just saying this because he died. I mean, he's a very powerful presence.
Isn't it weird that like Val Kilmer, so he does Top Secret, great as the leading man in it. Like that was his first acting role on screen was in Top Secret.
And it's different, this movie, because in Top Secret,
he's a straight man.
Yeah, he's like Leslie Nielsen. Whereas in this movie, he's more like
a goofy
Bugs Bunny or
exactly.
something.
But like he hits that perfect balance of not being too annoying, and he doesn't come off as like, well, I'm the cool guy. Like you need to like me. That like he gets to, it's like, you know, if I was in the room with him, I do not think I would appreciate his shenanigans.
Well,
but
yeah,
I like watching him.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think first of all, he's the prettiest a man has ever looked in a film.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, the connection between all these movies that I'm feeling from Martha Coolidge is this sense of empathy and warmth towards her characters and her actors. And so this is another movie where, aside from William Atherton as the sinister like professor,
I mean, I love William Atherton,
who's great, and this is one of the quintessential William Atherton type performances.
How do you feel William Atherton like lives day by day? Because he must be yelled those Bill Murray lines from Ghostbusters every single day of his life.
I mean, I'd be yelling Pauly Shore lines from Biodome if I saw him.
Oh, is he in Biodome? I don't remember.
Yeah,
that.
he's
Well, it's time for Pauly Shore round 2 for me and you.
Did we watch Biodome for that episode? I've seen it so many times.
I don't think so.
It's fucked. I've never seen Real Genius, but I've seen Biodome.
But that's the difference, right? Because Biodome, TBS classic.
I saw Biodome on TV a lot.
All the time,
Yeah.
yes. I remember being very ripped off that they opened the Biodome too early in that film.
I agree. But we're not here to talk about Biodome.
We're here to talk about Real Genius. It's also a film that feels lived in. It's in like one location. It's like basically like a boarding school that all these geniuses live, and they're building a weapon.
Oh yeah, and what I was gonna say is that like I think Martha Coolidge compared to the movie that this movie is often compared to is Revenge of the Nerds.
I mean, no date rape in this movie.
Yes, a lot of there are a lot of snobs versus snobs comedies where like there are characters that you're supposed to laugh at, you're supposed to kind of ridicule, and I don't think this movie really has it.
Well, I mean, there's that one nerd who gets what he deserves.
Well, yeah.
I was reading like some of the contemporary reviews, and they call the film cruel. I'm like, cruel to who?
Yeah, it's not that cruel. I mean, they show William Atherton by making a bunch of popcorn in his house.
And destroying it, basically.
Yeah.
I think it collapses over. But William Atherton is also using them to build destructive laser weapons, and this is where the movie loses me completely. No one building this would have any moral qualms.
So I found this kind of sweet that the movie has the movie has skeptical politics.
Yes.
So I mean, it opens.
Well, not skeptical politics, as in like you're doubting what happens.
It's skeptical of the military-industrial
complex.
Like it opens with this scene, of a bunch of stern military CIA types, familiar character actors sitting around like a Dr. Strangelove style table, and they're planning to create this space laser that can, assassinate people from space with just one beam. Drone technology.
Yeah, drone technology.
We have that technology now, and it's fucking
Which
great.
is funny because Val Kilmer in the film, you see him create a drone at one point that flies around the room. So maybe he just kept working for the military-industrial complex.
And William Atherton is, the sinister professor who's taking all this grant money and embezzling it.
I've got to say, William Atherton has too many jobs in this movie. He's a professor, he's recruiting, he hosts a show that makes him famous, and he's working for the military-industrial complex.
Sure.
He's not being paid enough. Just let him build a house.
But yeah, he's offloading this work on his, fraternity house full of geniuses, basically.
Kappa Kappa, I don't know, Einstein or something like that.
Sure.
And our oddball group of characters, it gets wacky. I was surprised rewatching it again. It doesn't get as wacky as I would expect a movie like this.
No, I think it moves along at a kind of gentlemanly pace.
Even though it is written by the great Pat Proft.
Well, so importantly, the
Mr. Wrongfully Accused.
Yeah, importantly, the first draft was by the Police Academy scribes.
Yeah.
And then
I bet you there was a lot of like, whoop, whoop.
Martha Coolidge.
Oh, there's a marathon for us. Police Academy.
Oh, I'd rather blow my brains out.
What if we could get Bobcat on for like some of it?
For him, anything.
Okay.
But yeah, Martha Coolidge spent a year researching satellites and military technology and had, other writers rewrite it so that it was better, I assume, smarter.
Wait, but Pat Proft is not the Police Academy. He didn't write a Police Academy film, did he?
Neil Israel wrote Police Academy.
And also the classics like Bachelor Party and Look Who's Talking To.
Meanwhile, the other writer, PJ Torokvie, wrote Guarding Tess, which is not one of the ones you hear the Nicolas Cage fans bring up that much.
But it is a joke in that meta Nicolas Cage film. Remember, he watches his performance on a laptop. He's like, hey, that's pretty good.
I forgot about that.
Oh, man, Pat Proft. I want to do an episode on him. Listen to these credits. Scary Movie 5, Super Dave Spike-tacular, so I assume that's a special for Spike TV.
High School High. We should do
John Lovitz?
We should do an episode on Zucker-exploitation movies.
Does it count as Zucker-exploitation if you worked in the Zucker field, though?
I think that's where some of the finest practitioners came from.
And so, like, this movie, for someone who is that comedic, I would say that, like, again, the ceiling gag ratio is very low. It's not really Martha Coolidge's, like, stock and trade, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie is mostly pleasant, and it's nice to hang out with these characters, and it's especially nice to have Val Kilmer as this sort of
zany,
cool party animal, but also a little grounded.
Do you think he improv'd many of his lines? Because a lot of them sound like Val Kilmerisms.
I also think it's interesting that most of the pranks in the movie are pretty harmless.
Yes, I think that's very important.
Like early in the movie when they create a skating rink, basically, in the hallway of the dorm, and they use it with some sort of, like, I don't know, cold fusion technology ideology.
Well, I think one of the important things about the pranks in this movie, which is kind of the opposite of other films of this era, is that no one is the butt of the prank.
That's right.
Pranks are within the context of like, oh, we're going to create like a swimming pool in a theater, but like no one is suffering. There is no, I'm sure that if this happened in real life, there'd be a janitor being like, what the hell is this? But within the context of the movie, that is never an issue. Hence, these characters are much more likable by extension of it. And, watching the movie, again, I understand why this can be their comfort food. Because, it's not particularly offensive. You get to hang out with likable people.
Yeah, and if you had this on VHS, you just throw this on.
And I think it's important that it is a film about geniuses, because any teenager watching this is like, I'm a genius. Like, this would be my friends if I was accepted in some kind of school like this.
You were like that as a teenager?
Not at all. Yeah. I never thought that I was smarter than anybody. And by consequence, that made me smarter than everybody. That's just a logic that you have to go through. Well, were you?
I thought I was a prodigy.
Oh, did you were you gifted class kid?
No, I was not.
I am shocked by that.
So this is a funny story. Yeah. I'm going to say this on mic. So my parents were opposed to the gifted class.
They were right.
Because they recognized it for what it was. They said, this is classism. This is creating a two-tiered school system, and it's racist, and they didn't like it. But then they said, when I was in grade 8, they said, listen, for your own peace of mind, if you want to take the gifted test, you can take it. I took it, and I swear to God, they told me I was in the 97th percentile, not the 98th. This is what they told me.
Wait, they said you're in the... Wait, what does that mean? As a non-gifted?
Obviously, I don't understand either. They said I need to be in the 98th percentile.
Oh, so they said you weren't good enough.
They said I was 1% not good enough.
What the hell are you talking about? Those gifted programs were overflowing with kids.
Well, this is the thing. I'll tell you what happened. They already hit their quota.
Yeah,
I took the test in like March of the school year. It's like there was no point.
Yeah, so you've been furious holding on to that grudge.
So yeah, not only was I already not gonna get in, but then I fucking failed it.
Oh, so your parents, if you had made it in, they would have been like, you can't do it.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, but you would have had the knowledge.
But then I would have had the knowledge that, well, I am gifted. Yes. But then I wasn't even. I was 1% lower than gifted.
And here we have the Will Sloan that we know today.
Yeah. So that kept me humble.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think that I kind of talked about this, but I never had good grades. But I had the classic teacher of like, he's so smart, he's creative, he doesn't want to pay attention in class. All he wants to do is read and like, do other stuff. And it's like, yeah, I have goddamn ADHD. What do you think I have? Unmedicated.
And look at us now.
Talking into mics.
We're the real geniuses now.
Yeah, real geniuses too. Baby geniuses about me and you. Yeah. Now, people may be asking themselves, okay, can't wait for you to talk about the next Martha Coolidge film. Nope, we're done. That's it for now.
Well, actually, that's not true, because we're going to talk about another one next week.
That's right. Yeah.
And we're going to.
Is this the first time?
This is a cliffhanger episode.
Yeah. Oh, so we're not going to tell them what we're doing next week?
Well, we will, but at the end of this episode.
Oh, that is this the first time that we return to a filmmaker the next week? I think it
is.
Wow.
And I'm very excited to do
it. No, this is just because last week we were looking at her filmography and I pitched a movie and I went, oh, I don't think we should do... In any other situation, we would have done this other film.
Yes.
Because we would have seen it like, we got to watch that. But where's the Martha Coolidge touch in this?
Yeah, so keep Martha Coolidge in your mind. We're going to read some letters now. Yeah. And then we're going to come back to it.
And do you see yourself maybe watching more of her films later on?
Absolutely. I'm very interested in her now. I think there is a voice in these films. Mm-hmm. And having Not a Pretty Picture in my head,
not colors, but contextualizes everything that comes
everything else interesting.
All right. So as per usual, you can send us letters at importantcinemaclubpodcast@gmail.com. Our first letter is from Anthony, and he asks, hey, Justin and Will, I feel that one of the great tenets of modern cinephilia is that everyone has one moderately esoteric pick for their capital G guy, the just outside the pantheon director whom they'll always go to bat for. Given that mine in my film friend group was Paul confirmed bad man Schrader. I don't think we need to get into this. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yes.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
He didn't die soon enough. I think we've talked about that, right? We're like, Paul, it's time to go out before. Oh no,
before bad things come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, what are you going to do?
I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. I've been cautiously dipping my toes into other people's picks. This led me to John Frankenheimer, who has already firmly cemented his place as my new guy. Schrader, into the bin. It's time for John Frankenheimer time. I was looking to see if you've spoken about the subject. I'm surprised to find that you haven't done an episode on him yet. Okay, so we've reached the point now that anytime someone looks for a filmmaker and they see that we haven't done him, they'll be like, I'm surprised you haven't done him yet.
And all we can tell you is there are a lot of filmmakers
There's a lot of filmmakers. I saw somebody recently who's like, I can't wait to look forward to the Ken Russell episode. And then they were like, wait a minute, you guys haven't done the Ken Russell episode yet?
Oh my God. So here's the other thing about this podcast is we do it every week.
Yes.
And there are certain filmmakers.
Oh, Ken Russell has so many movies.
That's the thing. It's like we want to do justice to Ken Russell.
Yeah.
And,
I love Ken Russell, too.
And I think sometimes we just have to get comfortable with the fact that we're not going to do justice to these people.
Yeah.
Like
it's
Ken
an introduction,
Russell,
not an overarching
it's not
everything.
definitive.
Yes, and we can always come back like we've done.
That's right.
Ken Russell.
I love Ken Russell.
I think that would be easy, right? Because it's like Tommy, one of his mini DV films that he shot near the end of his life.
And then like something with Oliver Reed.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got like Women in Love or something like that.
Yeah.
And so
and with Frankenheimer, we'd probably do Seconds, The Manchurian Candidate, and Ronin.
Yeah, it sounds so boring. I want to do the other one. Wait, I want to continue this letter, though.
Okay.
To me, he's a great unsung director who made a number of incredible films that have yet to be reclaimed. He's so much more than Seconds and The Manchurian Candidate or The Island of Dr. Moreau. Films like The Train, Black Sunday, 7 Days in May, 52 Pickup, and even his French Connection sequel show off his chameleon-like mastery of the form, and I think he'd be a worthy addition to the ICC canon. Let's get to it. Here's the thing. I already went through my John Frankenheimer phase. Love the guy. He's done so much stuff. The thing about John Frankenheimer, I think that makes it difficult for people to kind of get a handle on him is that, like the episode that I was not included on, that I would have loved to do. Richard Fleischer. He's a journeyman.
And we'll get back to Richard Fleischer.
Yeah, is that like John Frankenheimer, I love he has an immediate, like, present style to his movies. He's also a guy that you call up on the phone when a director's been fired and you need someone to take over. And I think that's because he started in television. He was known as a famous, like, live TV guy. He did a lot of stage plays as well, live for television. So he has that malleable style that can kind of, like, fit whatever film that he needed to make. And by consequence, I don't think he has those, like, canonized solid gold class. I would say The Train is a classic.
The Manchurian Candidate.
The Manchurian Candidate. But that was one that also was kept out of circulation for a long time because I believe it was Frank Sinatra that didn't want it out there.
It was after Kennedy was shot.
Right. And that why it was like kind of like...
So for 20 years, it was out of circulation.
But what's wild about Manchurian Candidate is how much of a hodgepodge, almost like Bollywood movie it is. It's like, when was the last time you watched a Manchurian Candidate?
When I was in high school.
It's all over the place. There is a martial arts scene in the middle of it involving karate.
God damn.
And like the weird kind of like science fiction, like over the top plot that plays over all of it. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna add him to. I want to do John Frankenheimer.
I want to do John Frankenheimer now too. Yeah,
delightful. Have you seen The Train? So good.
No, never have.
Yeah, I love that movie. Black Sunday, it's okay. One of the rare movies I can say that 5 years ago, I got like one of those Oculus things where you like the VR goggles.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to watch movies on this. And I watched all of Black Sunday. And I was like, I'm not watching movies on this anymore. Not fun.
One I've been meaning to watch for years is 52 Pickup. And I've never got to it.
Yeah, that's the one that like people try to elevate of like, this is one of the great kind of like, not neo-noir movies, but within that.
And it's kind of like a dirty 80s movie, like kind of sleazy, right?
What is it? And also because it is an Elmer Leonard adaptation. And he's one of the guys that like, he's always, that would be a great topic to do is like Elmer Leonard scripts. Because he also wrote films for like things that...
So like Be Cool?
I mean, of course, we'd have to tackle Be Cool. Did you hear the story that Barry Sonnenfeld, director of Get Shorty, which people consider the prequel to Be Cool.
That's right.
It's called that all the time. Said that Gene Hackman, the star of that film, came up to him at the premiere party and he was like, the movie's pretty good, but it could have been so much fucking better. And he's like, that's the best comment I'm going to get out of Gene Hackman.
That's probably Barry Sonnenfeld's best movie.
Undoubtedly. Mm-hmm.
What else is
like directorially?
Men in Black.
Men in Black. Adam Family Values. 9 Lives. That Kevin Spacey gets turned into a CGI cat movie. I saw that Barry Sonnenfeld released another autobiography, like The Further Adventures of Barry Sonnenfeld. And I'm like, sign me up. Yes, please. Was it Richard Fleischer who wrote 2 books? I love it when
Richard Fleischer, I think, only wrote one.
Yeah.
But
sometimes
one book.
They return to the well and they're like, oh yeah,
more stories.
It's the director of The Purple Plane who wrote 2 books because he was an actor and he was also the assistant director for John Ford.
Robert Parrish.
He wrote 2 books and it's like so good. Love it. I think the second book is mostly about about a famous Hollywood producer that he worked with a lot. And that's my favorite.
You know, I'm looking at John Frankenheimer's filmography, and of course I've seen a lot of the big ones.
Yeah, Reindeer Games.
Yeah, you know, Island of Dr. Moreau.
Bad.
But the further I get down, it's like, God, I'd really love to just watch some more of these movies. But then I think, I got Bruceploitation movies I have to watch. I had a little. This weekend.
Oh, he directed Dead Bang, the amazing. I know I've shown it many a times. It takes place during Christmas. Don Johnson action vehicle, which I believe I've talked about on this podcast before, because there's a gag in Teddy Bomb that I stole from it, where in that movie, Don Johnson is a big chase scene. And when he finally catches the guy, he's like, oh, you have the right to remain. And then he barfs on the guy. And I love the idea that someone, like in real life, you would chase someone, you get so tired that you would vomit at the end of it.
You know, one that I saw a long time ago, and I don't think it's one of the more popular ones just because it's so long, but his adaptation of The Iceman Cometh, I think is very good. It was made for that, like, the American Theater PBS series, but it was also released as a movie. Lee Marvin stars in it and is spectacular. You know, seeing Lee Marvin in that role is just fantastic.
He also has, like, I mean, I wish we could go to the big Cinema Dome in Toronto to see Grand Prix, his like 70 millimeter film that he made.
Well, that plays at,
it's not good.
That plays at the Kingsway every couple of weeks.
Do they have a 70 millimeter projector?
No, they have a 35 print of it, I think. If
yes,
you want to go check
that place is, as I predicted.
It's been blacklisted.
Yeah, ever since I said it's persona non grata. Wait, is the Cinesphere going away?
Oh, yeah. So here in Toronto, just for some context, we have a thing called Ontario Place.
Well, we did have a thing called Ontario Place.
It was this waterfront amusement park that never quite lived up to its potential.
No, it basically died in the early 2000s.
But it has a huge, like...
70 millimeter.
Huge 70 millimeter movie theater dome on the waterfront. And you can't miss it
with
if you're
the
driving.
world's most uncomfortable seats.
And its last hurrah was a couple of years ago when Peter Kaplowski rented it out to show a 70 millimeter print of Speed Racer. I think he tracked down the only 70 millimeter print.
Even though that film was shot in 1080p.
Well,
but
it looked spectacular.
It looked spectacular in the, I believe, unair conditioned that day.
Yes.
Wooden seats that were built in the 70s. But what a delight.
And it was just great to walk along that bridge one more time.
I mean, Cinesphere, for a while, we're showing stuff, but it's like, I don't need to see Dunkirk there or something like that. That was the issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, John Frankenheimer, Ours to Discover. And the letter continues. Thank you for this wonderful podcast. It's been an invaluable resource for discovering the ever-expanding limits of this beautiful art form. And when my hunger for film wanes, it's the only place to go to relight a dwindling flame.
Well, thank you. And hey...
Wait. I can't believe it's only $5 a month. Doesn't have to be. Could be $50 a month. You can give us that if you want.
That's right. That's right.
You know what? We need to do another, because we listen to a lot of podcasts doing like crowdfunding stuff. It's like, it's the maximum fun crowdfunding. We need to do that again, and we need to find a goal. Especially because Patreon, I mean, you have another Patreon I think you run. You see the number of people that are subscribed, and you're like, look how big the number is. But not all of them are paying. Some of them are just subscribed to see what you post.
That's right.
Can we equal out that number? Like, if you clicked and like subscribe enough because you like the podcast, what will it take to make you subscribe?
Just a piece of content that's
like
good.
So,
So here's what I think. You follow the show on Patreon, just so you can see what's happening, just so you can be tempted.
But aren't you numbed if you just see post after post after? You're like, I don't need to watch it.
Not with our content.
No, they're like, the day the laughter died. I got to check that out. I know one of the many requested things is a Thumb War episode or Steve Odekirk.
Man, sorry, you were flying fast and furious. People are losing track of these references. The Thumb movies, folks. You remember when you were at Blockbuster in the 2000s? They had all those like Star Wars, the Thumb movie, by Steve Odekirk,
the director of, let's all say it together, Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls,
and Kung Pao,
and of course he wrote Barnyard, the original Party Animal, and Bruce Almighty.
And he had all those movies that
High Strung, star of High Strung. How could we forget?
But yeah, like the Blair Thumb Project, stuff like that. You remember the Thumb movies, right?
And twice we've teased if we hit a certain mark, we'll do a Thumb marathon.
Are we reintroducing this?
No, we're not.
I'm down to do a Thumb marathon.
But I have to do, as my brother did the last 2 times when I said it, he's like, those are impossible goals to reach. Let me look, what are we at right now?
So if we make $50,000 a month.
50,000? Well, that's not going to happen because we're not even close to that.
Well, not with that attitude.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I'll have an update next week. I will thumb it out.
And we'll come up with...
Do you know how many Thumb movies there are?
probably a lot, right?
Yeah.
But they're all like 10 minutes long.
They're like 45 to an hour long.
45?
I mean,
It's one joke.
okay, wait. Bat Thumb is 28 minutes long. And Thumb Wars, oh yeah, you're right, they're 30 minutes long. Thumb Wars, The Phantom Cuticle is what it's called.
Awful. Those Thumb movies, I mean, I haven't seen a single one of them. I mean, I'm sure I will at some point, thanks to this podcast, but I could never understand even what the joke was. It's like, okay, it's the Blair Witch Project, but it's performed by thumbs. Like how?
Like we would have been the right age
to
like
get the joke.
to rent it, right? To be like, I love thumbs.
I consider myself broad-minded. I have an expansive palette in terms of my taste. I'm open to many kinds of experience.
Here's what I'll do. I'll put a goal, and if we hit it, it'll be a Thumb Wars Patreon episode that is going to be limited time. It'll go away after a month. And to sweeten the pot, a Steve Odekirk main feed episode.
I would love to do a Steve Odekirk main feed episode because years ago we talked about Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Yes.
And I condemned it.
Yes, you condemned it.
I hated it with the fury of 1,000 suns. I think I might be ready to like that movie now.
Wow, so you're going to go back. Yeah, because your issue was this guy thinks he's so funny.
Well, that wasn't my only issue. I also didn't think the movie was funny.
Okay, well, that's a big stumbling block.
Yeah, but as I look back on it, what I remember about it are the things that were funny.
Okay.
Like the guy getting hit in the balls.
Very funny, Stephen Odekirk.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And then that's about it.
Now,
and I also love the spirit of it. It's like he took a...
But the idea that film opened wide is very funny to me.
Oh, yeah.
That, like,
with him as the star, Steve Odekirk. Like, who the hell is this guy? Hey, listen, since we're just going in every direction, riffing on a bunch of things, can I tell you something that might blow your mind?
What?
So you know Steve Smith, the guy who played... Steve Smith played Red Green on TV.
Yes.
Here in Canada, folks, we have a show called The Red Green Show.
Well, are you about to tell me that he went right wing or something like that?
Well, he did go on the Huckabee Show.
Yes, I did see that.
But anyway, he was... If you have PBS, you probably saw him, Red Green.
Yeah.
Well, in the year 2004, Steve Smith had a one-season show in 2004, mind you, called Steve Smith Playhouse, or maybe it was Steve Smith Theater.
So it's like a kids thing, or
no? It was his Mystery Science Theater.
No,
look this up.
Wait, what?
It was 13 episodes, and he would take it. It was hosted by him, like sitting in an armchair, like, now we'll show you an edited version of this movie, and I'm gonna dub the voice of the main character.
Whoa.
So it was also like What's Up, Tiger Lily?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was called Steve Smith Theater, I think it was, and he would take public domain bad movies like Plan 9 from Outer Space, Atom Age Vampire, EGA, stuff like that.
You just do all the voices.
Well, he would do one voice. So conceptually, it didn't even make any sense. So it would be EGA, and he would do the voice of Arch Hall Jr.
Yeah.
And so the other characters would just be saying their lines, and then you'd hear Steve Smith's voice responding whenever Arch Hall Jr. would say anything, and he'd be like, I have a big boner, stuff like that. It was always the lowest hanging
and I'm sure very racially sensitive, depending on what movie they're talking about.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the main thing is, I watched most of the Plan 9 from Outer Space episode, and he's doing the voice of the head alien.
Yeah.
And it's just every single time he's just like, oh, somebody get me my Viagra. Oh, I want to have sex with you. It's that.
Do you think
the cheapest,
he was
lamest.
like improving it in the moment?
Yeah, probably.
Wow.
So look that up, Steve Smith Theater. We should do a whole Patreon episode on that.
Do you think that there's like a Steve Smith Theater better than Mystery Science Theater 3000, a group out there?
I don't think there is, and I'll tell you why. Because if I didn't know this show existed...
No one knows this show. Wait, so you just discovered it because you were doing research for Plan 9?
Yeah, exactly.
How had you never heard of this before?
I have no idea.
I mean, we did an episode on the Red Green movie. Just, in my mind, just ejected that the second it was done.
So it wasn't so much that... No, I wasn't doing research for Plan 9. You know what I was doing?
Steve Smith research.
Yes, I was doing Steve Smith's research. I was watching an episode of Smith and Smith.
That's his sketch comedy show he did with his wife.
His like Sonny and Cher show. And I just had it on in the background like, I remember this show. This was really bad. I'm going to watch this. And then in the YouTube recommends, it was Steve Smith Theater, Plan 9 from Outer Space.
And you were
I thought, what?
Yeah.
What is this? And then I found out.
Yeah, you did find out.
So thanks to our international listeners for just having the patience to listen to me riff about Steve Smith, the guy who played Red Green.
Martha Coolidge, who checked out the episode, and she's like, are they going to talk about me again? No, you can go.
Well, we will.
We will next week.
In a minute.
I don't know if she'd want to tune into that one, which is, what is our subject next week, and how do we get there?
Yeah, so next week we are talking about Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
Okay, now originally we saw Martha Coolidge directed Out to Sea. And I believe I went, all right, we're doing an episode on late period Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. That lasted 30 seconds before I backed away like a coward. And I was like, no, we gotta do the good Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau too.
But then the idea of watching Out to Sea kind of stuck with me because I remember that Roger Ebert gave it a thumbs up.
Oh, did he?
And he said, hey, this movie's actually pretty good. And it's got Donald O'Connor in it. Mm-hmm. It's got a whole raft of like old Hollywood stars.
It's like just on the doors of death.
Yes. Yeah. It's got others too.
So, okay. So we're going to do classic Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
The Odd Couple. Mm-hmm. We're going to do Grumpy Old Men.
Yep.
How can we not?
Is that a classic?
I mean, it's definitive.
Yes, that's right. We got 3 there.
Out to Sea.
Yeah.
Do we do a 4th? And
we're gonna. Are we gonna do like the front page, a transitional?
No, we're gonna do Buddy Buddy.
No, isn't that?
That's Billy Wilder's last film.
Ooh,
Klaus Kinski is in it.
Didn't we find? Okay, are they the star of the film?
Yes.
Because remember, I found one that I believe was either directed by Walter Matthau or Jack Lemmon.
Oh, there's The Grass Harp.
The Grass Harp.
That's directed by one of their kids.
Oh, is that who it is?
Yeah, and that's like a Truman Capote adaptation.
And look, very serious. It has no logs on Letterboxd.
They've got mustaches on the poster. We're not going to do JFK.
No, that doesn't count. I mean, I would like to watch JFK again.
I know. I want to watch all these movies.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to watch these movies now, but then it'll come time to watch Buddy Buddy, and I'll be like, oh.
Now, Out to Sea. Let's prognosticate. Do you think you will enjoy this movie?
I don't know if I'll enjoy it. What I know is I want to enjoy it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think it looks very sweet. And I think, this came out the same year as The Odd Couple 2, which obviously not a good movie.
So was it Grumpy Old Men that made them?
Grumpy Old Men was a huge hit.
Yeah. That's the one that like, they're back.
They're back. They're a team. And
not to be confused with We're Back, the animated dinosaur film where Jay Leno plays. Jay Leno style
dinosaurs. Yeah. Yes. Jack Lemmon in particular had a really great 1990s. Okay. He had Glengarry Glen Ross. He had Shortcuts. I'm sure there were other movies he was good in. 12 Angry Men.
Do you know who directed Grumpy Old Men? Donald Petrie.
Oh, Donald Petrie. An absolute menace to society.
Oh, man. Welcome to Mooseport, the Whoopi Goldberg film, The Associate.
He did My Life in Ruins.
Oh,
with Mia Vardalos.
My Favorite Martian. I saw a lot of trailers for that.
Oh my God. Okay, we're not doing a Donald Petrie episode.
No? Miss Congeniality, Mystic Pizza, Little Italy, set in Toronto, April Mansky's favorite film of all time, Hayden Christensen. And
okay, well,
Emma Roberts.
Listen. Let's not fall too deep into the Donald Petrie.
The Lindsay Lohan film, Just My Luck. Do you wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, what am I doing?
You know what amazes me about Donald Petrie is?
Oh, man. Look at this. One of the good Chris is Chris Pine.
How did Donald Petrie not fall into the Hallmark Christmas mines?
Because he is too pure. He's like, it needs to be theatrical. It needs to open wide.
All these movies, he had a lot of hits,
a lot of hits.
Opportunity Knocks with Dana Carvey.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We had to carve out Dana Carvey in our big screen comedian failures, even though he made a lot of movies that he starred in.
We'll have to do one of those episodes. We should just do a whole Dana Carvey episode.
Yeah, we should just do a whole Dana Carvey episode. Can we drill down why Dana Carvey could not hit it off as a leading man?
But anyway, next week, it's Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Do you have any, I have no, I've seen a lot of Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon movies. I like them. They were never my guys. In a way that I feel that, there's a reason they come back and they become a big hit again.
Yeah, I mean, are they my guys? I've seen them both in many films.
Yeah.
I've always liked them. Mm-hmm. In fact, some of them are in some of my favorite movies. Mm-hmm. It's like Glengarry Glen Ross, I've seen many times and I love it. The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, A New Leaf, great movies, great performances. Lemmon and Matthau as a duo. Well, I've seen a lot of those movies. Not lately.
1976 onward is just a cursed filmography for Walter Matthau. Look at this. The Couch Trip, The Little Devil, Mrs. Lambert Remembers Love. I mean, Dennis the Menace. I saw
Dennis
that in
the Menace is a good film.
Great movie. What is this? IQ, where he plays
Albert Einstein. Yeah, I remember seeing that VHS box a lot.
Wait, who directed IQ? Oh, man. Another Donald Petrie. Fred
Shepsey.
Oh, Who can forget 6 Degrees of Separation, the one where they go to the sperm bank?
Fred Shepsey, and it's insane the information that I keep in my head. Fred Shepsey took over directing Fierce Creatures after the first director was fired.
That makes sense, yeah. They're like, we need a great guy. Oh, Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck.
We're just listing off movies now.
I know, but it's getting me excited.
But I think the fans like it when we just list them off
But it's like no one has ever been like, let's go through Fred Shepsey's filmography and discuss.
Can we do a Patreon episode where we just let loose? We just keep going down letterbox rabbit holes. We keep going on Wikipedia.
Like a letterbox rabbit holes where like the listeners in the Discord pick a movie and then we follow either actor, writer, cinematographer and go down a rabbit hole. See if we can come all the way around.
Man, yeah, Fred Shepsey's filmography. Sorry, now
can't help yourself.
I can't help myself. It's like, oh man, 6 Degrees of Separation. That was kind of a big
well, that's
deal
the one
movie.
That's the one I said that like that's the Will Smith in a sperm bank movie.
Yeah.
What is Iceman? I've seen that. Oh, that's the one where they find a caveman, I think. And
Timothy Hutton.
Yep, that's right. Not to be confused with what is the one? Is it like Mel Gibson who's frozen or Bruce Willis and then he comes back?
Oh my God.
Is that the kid? No.
No, the kid is a Bruce Willis movie, but I don't think so.
He's frozen.
Are you thinking of like what's that movie where Jean Reno plays a knight who comes back?
No, not that one. That's Visitors or something like that. Just Visitors.
Yeah.
Oh, but look at this. Fred Shepsey, Libido from 1973. Ugh. Okay, we're just
folks, write in and tell us, do you like it when we just ramble on about stupid shit like Fred Shepsey's filmography?
Where people need to look it up and be like, wait, who is that? Like, wait, there's a Sean Connery film called The Russia House that came out in 1990?
Oh, yeah, I feel like that was kind of a big deal movie.
Sean Connery, Michelle Pfeiffer, Rob Schneider, John Mahoney. Yeah, it's J.T. Walsh. There you go. It's got a cat. All right, Fred Shepsey episode coming up.
And on our Patreon this week, we're going to return to Neon Genesis Evangelion.
That's right. We're back. We're talking about once more. I know people are like, what the hell? Love Hina instead of...
That was an April Fool's
joke.
Yeah.
So we're coming back to Neon Genesis. And this is... I haven't watched the episodes. It's interesting is that this is a demarcation line, specifically because half of one is a clip show. So you can feel that they're not only running out of money, but the show also self-destructs at this point, as it's been well documented, that they had an outline for the way the show is supposed to go. And Hideaki Anno said, I don't want the show to end that way anymore. I want to push it in a different direction. And you can feel the show starting to shift towards what it ends up being and what, very easily can be defined as a reason that it's iconic. So check out the Patreon for that. And until next week, my name's Justin Decloux.
I'm Will Sloan.
Thanks for listening.
Well, I sat down on the weekend and, I was going to say this earlier. I had a great weekend of viewing.
You did?
It's like
Wait. Was the wife away so the mouse could play?
That's exactly what happened. And I'm the mouse.
Yes,
right?
yes. That is the... what is the word for when you get an expression wrong? Malapropism. There you go. Yes.
Malapropism. That's when you say a word wrong, I think.
Oh, I thought it was like an expression where you're like, which is what I always do.
Oh, maybe
which I get like the beginning right, and then I mix it in with a different one.
Like Leo Gorcey and the Bowery Boys.
I mean, listen, people are calling us the Bowery Boys all the time, especially that we're way too old to be doing what we're doing.
I'm kind of a Hunts Hall.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, I had a great weekend of viewing, okay? I watched 2 Turkish action movies starring Çoynet Arkan.
Jeanette Arkan.
Yeah.
We did a whole episode where we went through the pronunciation of his name.
Sorry, that was years ago.
Yes.
Apologies to our Turkish listeners. I watched some Bruceploitation.
Oh, which one did you watch?
Bruce and the Iron Finger.
Yeah, I was going to say,
film.
Which Jeanette Arkan film that you watch? And you'd probably be like, I don't know.
One of them, he played his classic character, Kara Murat. Mm-hmm. And the other one was called like 3 Supermen Against the Godfather.
Oh, so it was one of those broad kind of rip-offs of the Italian Superman films.
Or very kind of like Terrence Hill, Bud Spencer.
Yes, like very broad comedy. And it's just like Superman, they usually wear like red tights or blue tights.
That's right.
And they're getting like, they have superpowers. And
well, the thing is, they don't really have superpowers.
No, not in this one.
They're thieves who wear these outfits, but they do, in any of Jeanette Arkan's movies, he's always like jumping on trampolines.
Yeah. Now, this is something that we could go down and be the first like people to focus in on the Superman films, because not only was it kind of an official like Italian miniseries, but it was also like ripped off around the world. And even an Italian director made one at the Shaw Brothers where there was like a Hong Kong element into it.
And I know I've seen at least one other movie with him that's called like The Three Superboys, something, or like there's three Supermen. There's also three Superboys.
Yeah, and Bruce Lee and the Iron Finger. I've definitely seen that one.
Yeah, you have, because you gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. It's kind of a giallo type movie,
right?
It's Bruce Lee is looking for like a killer.
Like you've seen this before too.
I have seen it before, but I'd mostly forgotten it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bruce Lee is investigating like a guy who's killing people with like the Iron Finger technique.
Yeah.
Bruce Leung is in it as well. The two of them fight.
Nice.
And it's one of those great Bruce Lee movies where it's like he's no longer just slavishly imitating Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
He's fighting on the mean streets of modern day Hong Kong, by which I mean 1979. He's in
Hong Kong? Taiwan, maybe?
No,
it is Hong Kong?
This one, it's Hong Kong.
Okay.
And I know the landscape anywhere. Obviously, he was a Taiwanese martial artist.
Yep.
But this one's Hong Kong. He's fighting on like the lumber yards.
Love it.
He's fighting in a junkyard.
We've said it 100 times. We've said it once, but Bruce Lee's filmography, genuinely good.
I love Bruce Lee. But anyway, the main event here is I sat down and watched a Gold Ninja video release that I've had in my possession for a while and was looking for just the right time. Sometimes I want to wait for the mood to strike. And then I grab that mood and I ride it like a dragon.
And this movie was Jose Pendris's The Monster Man.
And it's funny it took me so long to watch because I am on this Blu-ray.
Yes, that's right, because we do a featurette about Conrad Brooks, right?
That's right. We,
who's Conrad Brooks?
Yes. Folks, this podcast is better than a whole year of like film education. Because you're learning everything you need to know. Conrad Brooks was a drinking buddy of Ed Wood's.
Yes. Didn't want to be an actor.
Although that may actually not be true.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, he would say,
he would say, I'm no actor.
Yeah. I'm just kind of hanging around in Hollywood, if you will.
Yeah, I think he maybe wanted to be an actor.
But everybody kind of wants to be an actor, like if the opportunity presents themselves.
But he's a bit part actor in many of the Ed Wood films.
Like real bit part.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess he has some...
In Plan 9, he has...
lines, and
he has some lines.
Yeah.
He's one of the cops in Plan 9. And then for many years, he faded away. And then when Ed Wood became popular when Ed Wood became discovered in the 80s, Conrad Brooks started appearing in tons and tons and tons of no-budget films, camcorder movies. Yes, exactly. He himself made a number of them, like Jan Gell, Beast from the East.
And he tried to swindle young film lovers who would call him to do interviews.
So he's in The Monster Man, is the point.
That's why we're talking about that, yeah.
And he has a big role in The Monster Man.
Huge role.
And
probably one of the bigger Conrad Brooks roles of films that he did not direct.
Probably.
Or were directed by David "The Rock" Nelson.
And so I was watching the extras. I was watching the interview that you did with Jose. And Jose is talking about how, I met Conrad Brooks at a convention. And, all of a sudden he's like trying to sell me all this stuff. And it's like, okay, here's a movie I'm in. For you, $20. A good deal just for you because I like you. And I'm watching this and I'm hit like a lightning bolt because like when I was a teenager, I talked to Conrad Brooks on the phone. I had the exact same spiel done to me.
I mean, he did it every person he met.
I'm sure I've said this on mic before.
Yeah.
But like, I remember getting off the phone with him and saying to my mom, like, I don't know what to do. I asked him for an interview and now I've told him I was going to send him $90. I don't have $90.
And I believe your mother said, you spoke to a con man.
That's what
that's trying to con you.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You don't have to send him $90.
And now, if you had those original movies sent from Conrad Brooks, you would treasure them. They'd be up in the mantle somewhere.
Yeah, I've got Conrad Brooks movies now.
Okay. And so The Monster Man is a film that Jose made on his own. He was his friends. I talked to him about it, like, what did he think the movie would lead to? And he's like, I just wanted to make a movie, basically.
And it's a mini DV, like post-apocalyptic
movie. It's like I Am Legend. That's what it is.
It's I Am Legend, and he says that he was very influenced by, like, the Zucker brothers, Mel Brooks.
Yes.
So it has a little bit of that kind of, like, anything goes sense of humor.
Yes. And it is no budget. And
you want to know something? I laughed.
Yeah.
There are funny jokes.
Well, I mean, it definitely delves into that dreaded word, anti-comedy at points, where it drags something. There's a scene, and this is when, like, this scene played, and I messaged him right away being like, can I put your movie out on Blu-ray? Where he, like, shakes a man's hand for, like, 3 minutes as the camera, like, zooms in very slowly.
Yeah.
And there's martial arts fights where just like wild, just like throwing each other into trees and things like that.
That handshaking scene, it's that the two of them are just staring at each other.
Just staring at each other for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Very fun. I laughed.
I laughed at that. Honestly, I was sold with this movie in the opening credits where it's like, so he got Linnea Quigley to appear in the movie.
Yeah.
He met her at a convention.
Tom Savini, same thing.
Tom Savini. And I just love that their build is like, Linnea, I was in Return of the Living Dead, Quigley. And you see that, and it's like, this is what like a kid makes when they don't have any rules.
No, they don't care.
Nobody's telling them what to do.
And what's interesting about that Blu-ray is that movie came out. It was released by a distributor. And when we were doing the commentary, Jose was talking about like, oh, the scene where I kiss a woman, and it was very uncomfortable. Actually, the star subspecies that he just sent an email to, and she appears in the film. And he's like, when the movie ended, he's like, I guess maybe we talked over that scene. Well, it turns out he sent me the master tape, and the film, they cut out like 20 minutes of it, and Jose never knew they cut it out. So the version you watched was the full version.
Well, it's 110 minutes.
Yes, which is probably why they cut it down.
And I gotta say though, I wasn't really looking at my watch.
No, because I
was having a good time.
It's pure entertainment throughout.
Yeah, and I think what I liked about it, and this is a movie that like to recommend it, I have to recommend it in a certain way.
Well,
because like
the people need to know what they're getting into.
Right. A mini DV movie made by a teenager with like a teenager's sense of humor.
Yes.
And if you can
in the early 2000s.
Yeah. And I just think, though, it really captured for me that feeling of like, you've got a lot of free time, you've got a camera, you love movies, you don't really know how they work, and
you're putting it all out there.
A movie, and hey, you got Linnea Quigley at a convention.
But most importantly, you got Conrad Brooks. How would you describe his performance in this movie?
Very late period Brando-ish.
Yes.
In the sense that he's learning his lines as if phonetically.
Over the top.
Yeah.
Every scene he's yelling every line that he says.
Okay, there's a line in this movie, and this is not very politically correct, folks.
Yes.
It's a teenager from the 2000s, but I laughed.
Conrad Brooks may have improvised it himself.
He delivers this like, sinister monologue, and then at the very end of the scene he leans to someone and says, "Did that sound gay?"
Yeah. And that feels like a Conrad Brooks.
I'm sorry, I laughed.
So there's scenes where Conrad Brooks fires a gun and he goes bang, bang when he does it. And Jose said he stopped like, Conrad, could you not like say bang when you shoot the gun? He's like, yeah, kid, no problem. All right, action. Bang, bang. And he's like, he's not going to stop saying bang. It's like, you turn on the fire hose, you can't really turn it off. You just got to let it spray all over the place.
Conrad Brooks is in Tim Burton's Ed Wood.
Yeah.
He plays a bartender in an early scene. And once you know who Conrad Brooks is, you can't get him out of your head.
Nope.
And so like, it's a scene that's just like completely incidental. It passes by without any normal person noticing it. But if you know who Conrad Brooks is, you can tell he's just overplaying this line just slightly.
I mean, he's eating the scenery.
Do you want another drink, kid? It's like that. And very Mickey Rooney-ish. And I love it. I love seeing Conrad. And I just think like, what was it like for Tim Burton to direct him? Probably had to do like a lot of takes.
Absolutely.
Just to get him to this level.
I wonder if like Larry Karaszewski, like they were on set, or Scott Alexander.
Is there someone we can ask?
Yeah, like what was Conrad Brooks? Wasn't the Paul Marco story?
Well, Paul Marco was in the movie,
but he was cut out.
He was cut.
And isn't there like the story that he went to the trailer that had Paul Marco on it? He's like, trailer all to myself.
That's right. So Max Casella, who played Paul Marco in the movie, gets to his trailer and sees, Paul Marco's just throwing all my stuff out of my trailer.
Because he thinks that the trailer says Paul Marco is his, even though it's a character in the movie. Wait, who plays Conrad Brooks? Oh, no one plays Conrad Brooks.
Well, just a character actor.
Yeah.
No disrespect to you,
whoever it was. I'm sure we'll learn about it. Like, how could we forget it was this person? Anyway, Conrad Brooks, so fun in the movie. That's what's fun about the movie is that it's a kid or teenager doing all this fun stuff that if you ever picked up a camcorder, you did yourself, also pushing it to extremes that most people probably didn't do, and that you have these actors like Linnea Quigley with a blanket pulled up to her chin her entire role,
right,
as she's dying.
Yeah, probably because like you're not paying for nude scenes.
No,
we're keeping this blanket up to my chin.
Well, not paying for nude scenes. I guess not paying. You don't get to see the body. You just paid for the head.
Yeah.
Tom Savini eating it up, talking about knives, sitting at a
Tom Savini brings it. Yeah.
As well, just showed up from a convention. He's like, you can say these lines. He also emailed Bruce Campbell, who sent a very rude email back, which I believe we talk about either in the interview or the commentary track. So that disc also has a documentary that Jose did on Ed Wood, where it's like Room 237, where he got his actor friends, including, I believe, Joe Dante and Fred Olen Ray, talking about Ed Wood and like just making up lies about what Plan 9 from Outer Space actually is. He did ask Conrad Brooks to be in it. Conrad Brooks, I believe, was like, but this isn't true. Why would I say this? And he's like, well, that's the joke, Conrad. And he's like, I don't get it. And he's like, I just wish he had been in the movie.
Wow. So now we know that Conrad Brooks turned down a role.
I think it may have been because he asked for too much money as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably it. So The Monster Man, yours to discover, goldenninjavideo.com.